Hello and welcome. This is Angie with thecountrysheetcottage.net. So today we're going to talk about sublimation on a cotton shirt. So if you can believe it or not, this is a cotton t-shirt and I actually sublimated this design. So what is the trick to getting sublimation on cotton? Because you've probably always heard that sublimation can only be on polyester. That's kind of true. So sublimation can be on any polyester surface. And it just so happens that both glitter heat transfer vinyl and there's even a polyester flocked heat transfer vinyl, your sublimation will actually react with those products. I'm giving two products a try today. The first is a glitter heat transfer vinyl, and I'm going to link to all the products in the description below so you can find those easily. So this is from B-Flex. And most glitter HTVs will work. You do want to make sure like they have some polyester content. And then they also have a flocked heat transfer vinyl. If you don't know what a flocked is, it's kind of fuzzy. And it's actually polyester. It's intended to be used with a sublimation printer. So you can actually print directly on this if you have a sublimation printer and add it to your cotton designs. But we are going to not use a sublimation printer because I know a lot of you don't have one. We're actually going to use sublimation markers. So I'm going to use this Artistry brand. This same technique will work with any sublimation product. So if you have a sublimation printer, it will work with that. It will work with any sublimation ink like sublimation markers. It'll also work with infusible ink sheets. So the same method on the flocked heat transfer vinyl as well as the glitter will work for both these. So this is the glitter that I'm wearing. And then this shirt is actually made with the flocked. So I'm going to show you how to make this cool watercolor effect on the design just as an example. But you can definitely use this same method for any design. So you could draw with the pens in your Cricut machine. You could cut something out with like the infusible ink sheets and then add it on top of the glitter or flocked HTV. So let's take a look at the supplies you'll need and then make our project. The supplies we're going to use are as follows. So I'm going to use some Artistry thermal transfer markers. So these are sublimation markers. Then we're going to need some protective paper, some heat resistant tape, and then you'll need some regular copy paper. Now, the copy paper will need to be rated for use in a laser printer or copy machine. Just check the back of the package to make sure it's rated for that. And then you'll need a plastic bag. So literally plastic bag out of your kitchen cabinet. I recommend a disposable brush because you can't really, I don't feel like you can get the ink out of it. So I always use a disposable one, and then just a little plastic cup for some water. And then some t-shirts. And we are going to give this a try with two different products. This one is the glitter HTV. So it's a white glitter HTV. And this one is a flocked HTV. It's a polyester flocked HTV. So this particular flock, you don't have to mirror it when you cut it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But if you have like a really intricate design, you may want some transfer tape to transfer it to your shirt. The transfer tape will need to be something that's rated for heat transfer vinyl. I may or may not use transfer tape depending on how my design looks once I cut it. But if you're using a different flock, one that's not meant to be printed on, you will want to make sure it's a polyester flock so that your sublimation will actually go into and have that chemical reaction with the product and be permanent. So be sure it's a polyester flock. Let's get started first by taking a look at these sublimation markers and how we're going to use them in this case. All right, so I have my copy paper, and what I'm going to do is pick 3 colors. Completely up to you how many colors you pick and what colors. So I'm going to go from purple to a dark blue to a light blue. And what I'm going to do is actually write with these on this plastic bag. So I'm going to write with the purple up at the top. And then I'm going to write with the darker blue somewhere over here to the side. And then I'm going to put some of the lighter blue over here on this side. Now what we're going to do is add some water to this. So this is just a cup with just a little bit of water and our disposable brush. And we're just going to start with this purple and add in a few drops of water. Basically, we're making our own watercolor, but with sublimation ink. So now that I have that good and watery, I'm just going to take some of that and I'm going to put it on this laser copy paper. So I'm going to go all the way across this with my watercolor design because I know that my design is long and skinny. If your design is small, you can just do a small area or you can do the whole piece of paper. Next, we're going to do this blue. And what we're going to do right here on the plastic bag is drag some of the blue to the center here and drag some of this purple and mix those together and create a completely different color and add that right under the first. Then I'll grab some of the blue, add that, and we will do this lightest blue and add that. Again, you can do this however you would like. There are no rules to this at all. And you can even go back and add some more color if you wanted to at this stage. So add some more purple to that. Just completely up to you how you want yours to look. Then we want to set this aside and allow it to dry completely. So it's really, really wet. I'm going to allow that to dry completely. Now I have a few that I've already completed and allowed to dry. And here's my two designs. As you can see, they're kind of different, kind of the same. And we're going to use these and cut the design on our Cricut out of these pieces of paper. So let's take a look at the design itself. Cut our paper that now has our sublimation ink right on it. And we're going to cut our glitter as well as our flocked HTV. So here we have our Cricut mat and we want to place, this is the glitter. The glitter goes face down on the mat or shiny side down. And then I've set my dial. I'm using the Cricut Explore Air 2. This will cut with any Cricut machine, but I set my dial to custom and I picked glitter iron-on from the material list. And I'm also going to pick more pressure just to make sure that it cuts all the way through. And then I also mirrored my design. So anytime your material is face down on the mat, you want to mirror the design itself. So now we can cut the glitter HTV with our Cricut. So once the cut's done, we can eject it from our Cricut, and then we can remove this one from the mat. Now, we will want to also cut the paper that we added the sublimation ink to, and we want to cut that mirrored as well. So what I did is I took the paper and I used a pair of scissors to cut fairly close to where I had painted my design. And now I want to put that at the top of my Cricut mat. And now we can cut the same design we just cut from the glitter. We'll want to cut from this piece of paper using the Cricut. This time, however, I'm going to set my dial to the paper setting. And then we can cut our design. And once that's done cutting, I will eject it as well. Now let's take a look at the weeding of these designs. So now for the weeding. So for the glitter, I just cut off the excess with a pair of scissors so I can use it for another project. And then we just peel back all the excess. So we want everything around the outside, as well as in this case, I want this center home piece to come out. And I'm just going to carefully remove that. So what I would like to do is actually use the home for another quick test or project. And I also want to leave, in this case, the centers of these letters and just remove the word itself. So I'm just going to kind of carefully do that, leaving the centers of those letters in place. So I'm going to do that for the entire word, and then we'll talk about weeding the copy paper with that sublimation ink on it. All right, so there's that piece completely weeded. So now let's talk about this copy paper. So we're basically going to do the same thing. In this case, I can probably just lift up the Tennessee itself maybe. If you have problems with curling, what you want to do is flip your mat over and remove the mat from the material and not the material from the mat. And we'll also want to get out the centers of these letters. So I'm going to pull off this large piece first. In this case, it'll be 2 large pieces. And then we'll grab the centers of those letters. And like I said, I kind of have a plan. I want to try to use the word home for another project. We'll see if that works. So I'm just kind of being gentle just in case I can get it to work. And what I like to do is kind of put those pieces right here so I don't lose them. So I'm going to be working on some other stuff and I can just put them right there on my mat and I know that they're not going anywhere. All right, so I've got the centers I need, the 2 large pieces I need, and the glitter. So let's talk about the flocked version of this design. So first things first, the flocked itself, I needed to cut on the green mat. The blue mat was simply not strong enough. I cut it on like a fairly new green mat. A purple mat would probably actually work as well. So you need a little bit of a stronger grip for the flocked. And then the second thing I'm going to talk about is the fact that there is, right now, as of this airing, I did not see any flocked heat transfer vinyl setting on the Cricut. So I tried the glitter. So I did the glitter iron-on setting, more pressure, and we are going to see how well that worked. So this one, we're going to leave that, there's like a backing paper. Again, we did not mirror the flocked, and you will see why in a few minutes. And the cuts actually look pretty good. So I'm just going to kind of peel everything back. And the T is separate from the rest of the word, so we're going to peel it from this side. Because this one says Tennessee while the other one said home. And again, I'm leaving the centers of those letters. And this is fairly detailed, so I may go ahead and show how to use transfer tape. Again, if you have a simple design, you could just peel it from this paper. So there's our Tennessee. Worked great with the settings that I used. And then we can just weed the paper in the same manner as we did the paper for the home. Again, this one is mirrored. So you want to mirror for the flocked. Don't mirror the design itself, but mirror the sublimation drawing. And you will see why when we press, but that's going to be important to get it right, is to not mirror the flocked. And again, it has to be a polyester flock, so don't mirror that if you purchase the same brand that I'm using. And then mirror the actual paper that you added that sublimation ink to. So there's that. So I have everything I need on this mat, and I'm going to leave it there. These pieces are super, super small, so I don't want to move those. So I'm going to leave that, and I'm going to go ahead and get out my Easy Press and get set up to press these. Right, the B-Flex glitter presses at 295 for 10 seconds. I have my largest Easy Press so I can cover this large design in one press. Now I'm going to first just kind of heat up the surface a little bit, get any wrinkles and moisture out. And then what I'm going to do, I know that I'm going to be sublimating on this in a minute, so I'm actually on top of my largest Easy Press mat, but I'm going to stick a smaller Easy Press mat, the medium size one, inside this shirt. And then I'm going to use some protective paper to cover that mat up. So I want to make sure that it's completely covered where my design is going to go, just so I don't get anything on my mat and nothing on the back of the shirt. That's just for sublimation. If you were just using the glitter by itself, you would not have to do that. All right, so now shirt's cool, we're ready to press. We're going to locate the design on the shirt. All right, and the carrier sheet's already on this, we just need to press. So we'll go ahead and put that down. Press with medium pressure for the 10 seconds. And then when the time's up, we'll just remove our press. And And we can actually start kind of peeling this right away. Just be careful that it's not so hot it's going to burn your fingers. And everything looks really good. We'll just make sure that E stays. Okay, so now that design is on our shirt. Now we want to make sure that's cool. It's already pretty cool before we put the sublimation on. So as soon as the sublimation hits anything hot, it will start to transfer. We can go ahead and set the easy press. So we want to set it at 360. And we are going to set it for 100 seconds. Let's do 120. So it says 90 to 180. So I'm going to do 120. So this is heating up. Our home is cool. So now we can locate our design. And to do that, we're going to use heat resistant tape. So don't use any tape. You want to make sure it's heat resistant. Then we can start taking those pieces that we weeded earlier, placing them on top of this glitter and taping them into place. Now remember, these are that laser copy paper that we did the watercolor effect on. So they have that sublimation ink on them. And we've already put our Easy Press mat covered by butcher paper inside, so we know that everything's protected. We will just put this into place, and you can just tape it down really well. You don't want it to move during the pressing process. And we'll also have some centers, so I'm going to leave that center open just a minute and we'll tape in just a second. So now I just have the centers of all those letters. And again, we want to make sure to put those face down on their corresponding letter. And then we'll tape every single one of those down really, really well, making sure nothing moves when we press. All right, so to press this design, we will need to cover it to protect our press. So I'm going to use a piece of that protective paper again. So you have the paper, then the sublimation ink design, that glitter HTV that we pressed underneath that, the shirt, another piece of protective paper, and our Easy Press mat. And then I have the back of the shirt and another Easy Press mat just under there to protect everything. And now we're going to press at that 360, 120 seconds, and you don't want anything to move. So we're going to press it down, press the C, and hold it with pressure for the full time, not allowing anything to move. All right, so after the time's complete, again, we don't want anything to move. We're going to lift it straight up. And then we're going to allow this to cool completely before we move this. All right, this is completely cool now, and we are going to start peeling back and see what we got. So you can see that effect on that glitter HTV, that kind of watercolor effect where it's going from like a pink to a blue at the bottom. And there you have it. So sublimation on glitter HTV. Now let's move on and see what happens when we use that flocked. All right, so for the flocked, we need to be at 305 for 10 seconds. So I went ahead and set my Easy Press to that, and that's going to be cooling down while we work. I went ahead and pressed over the top of this just to remove any wrinkles or moisture. All right, the flocked. Once again, we did not mirror it, and it has lots of little pieces. So we need to get it from this backing paper onto the shirt. There is transfer tape that's made for heat transfer vinyl. This is a piece of that here. You could also use a piece from an old project. So this was just from the glitter I just used that we just did the home, and I can just press that right onto here. So it's rated for use with something like HTV, and so I could just use it as long as it'll kind of lift up from there. And the only thing when working with this when working with the transfer tape and HTV is the transfer tape is never, I don't find it's ever like really sticky. So you're just gonna have to play with it and kind of peel it back. Just kind of play with it, peel it back, and just make sure that it's staying stuck to your whatever you use. Transfer tape, an old carrier sheet, whatever. And then watch when you get to the centers of those letters, they actually stay down and into place. So I'm just going to keep moving across this piece, making sure everything gets stuck to this tape, and then we'll press it and add that sublimation just like we did on the glitter. So here's our piece completely on this transfer tape. We can just flip that over carefully and add it to our shirt. Now the Easy Press has cooled down to 305 and I have it set for 10 seconds. And we're just going to make sure this is about in the center and that it's straight. And then once again, I've got an Easy Press mat inside of my shirt covered by some protective paper because I know I will be sublimating here in a few minutes. It'll just save me an extra step here to do that. So we're going to press this 305, 10 seconds, light pressure. Then we'll remove that Easy Press. And you can actually remove this liner while hot. Just make sure that it's not so hot it's going to burn you. And we just want to make sure everything is stuck. And now we have that flock right on our shirt. And remember, this is that polyester flock, so we can put our sublimation ink right on top. We are going to wait until this cools off so that it doesn't start sublimating while we're adjusting. And then we'll do it just like the glitter where we'll put it in place and tape it down. All right, so everything is taped down well where it won't move. And we're going to put our protective sheet on top of it. So protective sheet, the paper with the sublimation ink face down, taped down well to the flock that's already attached to our shirt. Protective paper, Easy Press mat, back of the shirt, another Easy Press mat. We're going to press this down and it's 360, 120 seconds, firm pressure. Then once your time is up, you're going to lift it straight up so nothing moves. Then we want to allow this to cool completely before we remove the paper with the sublimation ink. All right, I've allowed this to cool and now we can reveal the magic and see if we have that watercolor design on that flocked paper, on that flocked HTV, and it looks amazing. Totally awesome. All right, so there is how you add sublimation ink to both flocked and glitter HTV. So it's super simple, and I know the first question y'all are gonna ask is, how well does it hold up in the laundry? Well, I'm gonna tell you right now that I have already ran these through the laundry twice, both of these shirts. So you can see that there was like no fading. It was absolutely 100% fine. Yes, you can still launder these shirts and not have any problems. So if you were to use sublimation ink directly on the cotton without the glitter HTV or the flocked HTV between it, when you went to throw it in the washing machine, it would fade. So it would give you like a really distressed look. It would be kind of semi-permanent. So a lot of it would come out as you laundered it, and I don't know how long it would last actually. But I actually ran these through twice just to kind of see what would happen the first and the second time. And both the glitter HTV from B-Flex as well as the flocked can be dried. So I actually ran both these to the dryer as well. No issues at all. So if you're going to drop down below and ask that question, there's your answer right before you ask it. But if you have any other questions about anything we've covered today, feel free to ask those in the comment section below. Also, head to the description below, grab your supplies to give this technique a try for yourself. So if you've wanted to try sublimation, you hate polyester shirts, I've heard that over and over again. I hate polyester shirts, or maybe you want to put it on a hat and all you can find are cotton hats. This is a solution. So glitter, heat transfer vinyl, as well as the flocked. Now the flocked, you want to make sure it has a polyester coating. I know that multiple glitters will work, but the flocked I am not sure about. So the only flocked I tried was this B-Flex that's made specifically for sublimation. So I would definitely give that one a try. And I do not know about any of the rest of those. So if you are looking at another brand, I do not know if those will work. And I have only tried, I've seen other people try other glitters, but I've only tried the glitter from B-Flex, just to let you know that as well. If you love this video, if you learned something, be sure to give us a thumbs up. You'll also want to head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have videos like this all the time and you don't want to miss any of those. I hope you enjoyed these shirts today, and we'll try this watercolor technique for yourself. Again, the markers I used were the Artist Breeze Sublimation markers. They also come in a wide variety of colors. So this is the 10-pack with like the standard colors. I think you saw those in the video. But they also come in other colors as well if you are interested in expanding beyond the basic colors. But you can do the technique that I used where I took those and I kind of mixed them together on that plastic bag and create kind of all kinds of your own colors just by buying one pack. So thank y'all so much for joining me, and I will see you next week with another fun video. Thanks y'all. Bye-bye.